Hello, and welcome to the bite-sized section of the Marketing Buzzword Podcast.
This is the Marketing Buzzword Podcast, the podcast where we dissect the world's most common marketing buzzwords. Hold on tight. We are about to fly around the beehive to see the latest buzzwords that stuck to the marketing bees.
Hello, and welcome to the bite-sized section of the Marketing Buzzword Podcast and Project, aptly named Bitesize Buzzword. I'm Ben Roberts, and in these bite-sized snackable episodes, I'm going to help you dive deeper into what a specific marketing buzzword actually means, and help you decide whether it is or isn't important to your business, and if it is, how you can actually incorporate that buzzword, that term, into your marketing strategy. Now this week, we're going to unpick and really dive into the world of influencers and influencer marketing, which is a phenomenal topic, which is people talk about all the time, and I really wanted to go a little bit deeper into this and sort of talk about actually how you actually do it and what it actually is. So we're going to start off by defining what is influence and what is influencer marketing. We're going to look at actually find out if influencer marketing is right for your business in the first place, and if it is, how do you find the right influencers? What is the actual ROI of influence? And what are some of the good and the bad things to do when you're working with influencers? So, let's crack straight on. Now, what is influence and influencer marketing? Now, I thought it would be really good to start with a definition of this one and sort of define exactly what influence is, because this is really important. And now, the definition of it is having the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. Essentially, it's if you were an individual, are you able to have an effect on another person, on their development, on their behaviour, or on something else? To have influence over another person is to help them think or feel in a certain way. To have influence over an object, to be able to bend it and make it malleable. That is influence. It's not about necessarily having loads and loads of followers. It's about the impact an individual can have upon others, and it cannot be bought. This is something that is developed over time. It's not something that happens overnight. Yes, it can develop quite quickly. You can develop influence quickly, but you can't necessarily develop it. You can't buy it, and it doesn't just appear overnight. It's hard. It's sort of hard earned. Now, influencer marketing is basically then using people who have influence in a market to help promote your goods, services, or brand. It's finding those individuals in the same sort of place or space as you and use them to help showcase your brand, product offering, to align yourself with them. And it is paid. It's usually paid. Yes, there are other ways of doing this. Now, so I'm speaking to some people and they're saying that they don't necessarily like the term influence and influencers, and actually maybe then we need to look at actually whether it's more of an advocate marketing, and actually do you have to pay people? And it's a really interesting concept. And there's also a big difference between macro and micro. There's no, trying to find a set number on a difference between a macro and micro influencer is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. There are arguments for less than 10,000 being a micro. I've also seen arguments that would say it's almost like between 10,000 and 90,000, and anything above that is a macro influencer. Now, ultimately, it depends upon your market. If you're in the music industry, it would be completely different to if you're, say, going to be an influencer in the cosmetic, in like in a pharmaceutical industry versus a telecoms industry versus a fitness industry. There are different levels because there are certain things, B2C markets generally have bigger influencers potentially than B2B, or different types of influencers. You have to look in specifically at your market, and I wouldn't get bogged down necessarily in looking for macro or micro influencers. You have to understand your own market first. Now, is it right for your business? Well, there are a couple of ways it might be right for your business. Now, if you're struggling to get credibility for your business, this is probably the best paid method I think you can find out there to get credibility for your business. Because an influencer, yes, they are getting paid or getting some sort of bonus for this. But ultimately, they know that they've got to give their fans something that is proper, because if they start promoting products or brands that don't necessarily align with their own views or aren't of the right quality, then their fans will go away. If in order to maintain their own influence, they want to align themselves with brands that are what they stand for. So therefore, it gives your brand credibility, which is something that if you're lacking at the moment, credibility in a busy marketplace, look at influencer marketing. Now, if you want to leverage their existing reach, because you, for example, you want to expand more internationally, but you haven't got enough contacts in Europe, America, Asia, China, whatever it is, influencer marketing can help you open those doors, because they already have that reach and that following in that specific market. If you're struggling to maybe build market traction in a crowded place, influencer marketing will be there, because if you're competing against the big boys and you haven't got the massive adverts for all these massive budgets for all these adverts, then working with individuals and allowing them to be creative on their own, within their own sort of spheres, that is a great way of using influencer marketing and using it the right way. And finally as well, maybe if you're struggling to create unique and exciting content, you're not able to create it all in-house, or you're finding that you're starting to create stuff that is the same or isn't the quality, and you're sort of getting that block. Influencers can really help give you new perspectives, new ideas, and do things in a way that you can think of yourself. Or even, they could be doing the same thing, but do it, literally them doing it, and put their own tiny spin on it, means it's completely different, resonates with a new audience. That is an incredible reason to potentially get involved in influencer marketing. Now, if you are on the verge and you're thinking, okay, maybe I do want to get involved in influencer marketing, the next question is then, how would you actually find them? Now, there are a couple of different ways of doing this. There are tools out there which I find are absolutely brilliant. Some are free, some have free versions, some are fully paid, and some of them have some incredible things. Now, BuzzSumo, Social Bakers, Follow a Wonk, BuzzStream, they're all really good tools in there. Different levels, there's different. I'm not going to go into it in this specific episode about each of the tools and go through their pros and cons, but if you are interested and you want to sort of ask me about them, please do drop me a tweet at roberts_ben_m, or drop me an email, ben@ben-m-roberts.com. But anyway, those are great tools out there, and there are many. If you Google different influencer marketing tools, it depends on what you want, your industry, and what you're exactly looking for from an influencer, but there are plenty of tools out there. Organic search as well. Now, there's some would argue that there's no school like the old school, and actually you can trust your gut. The tools will give you data on like followers, potential engagement rate. I know, for example, Social Bakers one will do the engagement rate per 1,000 followers to try and give a really good indicative answer over how much actual proper engagement they're getting with their posts per 1,000 followers, so you can understand the proper influence or the amount of conversations, because if you had if a person had 2 million followers but no one's really interacting with their tweets, they may on the surface look like they have influence, but no, they just have followers. Whereas someone who has only 2,000 but has an incredible level of engagement with those, that is influence. Organic search can help you show some of these things as well, like engagement rate, the types of conversation. Looking at things like the tweets and replies section on Twitter shows actually the level of conversation, what people are exactly talking about. Really, really powerful tools. Another way I do this as well myself is I look at who's speaking at the conferences, who's writing articles and putting content out there that actually showcases them as a proper thought leader. Again, this is how I like to try and get potential influencers on this podcast, or people I think are really thought leaders in their industry, and these are people that are doing great things in their industry, and that's what I want to get on this podcast. And this is some of the things I will use to try and help find the right guests, so I can really add value to you on my podcast. Now, okay, so you've understood what influence is, and it's whether it's right for your business, and actually how to find it. So one of the next things that I find that people struggle with and are asking at all time is actually how do you measure the ROI of influence? And it's a really difficult one, because influence is different to everyone. There's different levels of influence. There's different types of influence. And when we talked about the definition, is it over the behaviour? Is it over their thoughts? How quickly does that convert? Now, it's like anything. You have to set goals with your influencer marketing campaign. It's not always saying go and create money and then not assigning stuff. I don't think you have to treat it like a marketing plan, like any marketing campaign. Your goals have to be aligned. So if you say to them, I want you to create content that's going to drive traffic towards our site, that's the goal, and that's how you measure the success of it. If it's just simply to have more brand mentions, to just put some more content out there on your behalf, these are the sort of things that you need to define first. And actually, before you actually engage in your campaign, is what is the ROI? Is it sales? Is it reach? Is it clicks onto the website? It's up to you. I'm not going to sit here and dictate what your ROI should be. It depends on your business and your outcomes. But this is something that you must consider. And every marketing activity you do, whether it's measurable, tangible or not, you have to be able to at least understand what the point in what you do. Always asking why. And that's something that's all too often lacked in influencer marketing. Now, the final bit I really want to sort of go through with you is actually the good and the bad of working with influencers. Now, we see a lot of people don't think long term. They sometimes think more medium term. So yes, I think there's the school of thought of think working with influencers in the short term is slowly going out the window in terms of like paying for a single post, because that doesn't really have the effect you want. You're better working on the longer term, so you're talking on months and trust, because again, trust, the individual has to build trust with you as a brand to be able to share them with their audience. You have to build trust in the influencer to make sure that they're talking about your product in the way that you want to, because ultimately you are paying them. You've got to think about all these different things. Think about the long term. Actually, when people come to like, know, trust you, and trust you, it doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to think about these things. I've talked about this in previous episodes of the podcast. It takes time, and don't try and rush things. Yes, you can track certain tangibles, certain metrics really quickly, but over time you'll see, like I guess with this podcast, over time the amount of listeners seems to be going up and up and up. That's the way it works. Think long term. Don't dictate how as well to influencers. Don't tell them and be strict and micromanage exactly how they create their content, because that is inauthentic. Allow them to be natural. Allow them to be authentic with their audience. Allow them to do things in a way that resonates with their audience. Yes, you may need certain things involved, but ultimately you need to be allowing them to be creative, because that's authentic. That's what resonates with their audience. Don't try and change them, because you will not see the results that you're looking for, and ultimately influencer marketing will not work. Followers can be bought as well. Influence cannot. Okay? You cannot buy particularly how you the capacity to have an effect on a character development behaviors. You can't buy that. That takes time. That's natural. That's organic. It's human. It's really human. Followers can be bought. It doesn't cost a huge amount to build a massive following. So you need to be aware of that. Just because someone has a massive following, they could be an influencer, and they potentially are an influencer. So I'm not saying rule it out, but take it with a pinch of salt until you've understood what their engagement is and actually how people are interacting with them. The final thing as well is monitor influencer marketing how you would as any other marketing campaign. I mentioned it already, but it's really important. Just because you're working with a person who has their own market and their own traction already, you still have to be able to set goals against it, because how do you know if it's working? You have to be able to set something that you can measure and understand. If it is just brand awareness and you've got budget for that, brilliant. Otherwise, what are your goals? Your influencer marketing has to be aligned with the rest of your marketing strategy. You can't just do it and say, we're going to do influencer marketing now, and then just go, okay, we're going to pick up some influencers and do things. It has to fall in with the rest of your marketing strategy. I hope that this is somewhat useful for you in terms of being able to find out a little bit more about influencer marketing, how to work with influencers, and what it really means. If you are enjoying these episodes and you want me to talk about any of the buzzword, or you have any questions, please do tweet me or email me, as I pointed out halfway through the podcast, or visit marketingbuzzword.com for the full transcript of the episode and a load of links back to some of the tools and anything you like there. Also reminding you that on August the 1st, something exciting is really happening. I'm going to start revealing a little bit more in my next episode on Monday with Adam. Really cool stuff. So Monday, 1st of August, something really cool is happening. So hold on and check that out. And I think if you are enjoying these episodes as well, please do leave a review on iTunes. I really, really do appreciate it. It does sort of help me keep wanting to go on with this, and we're sort of stagnated on those reviews, so please do leave a review on iTunes if you can. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back on Monday with another interview. Goodbye.